I was sitting in the doctor's waiting room when my phone rang. It was my only daughter, Angela. Her voice sounded strange, cold, almost emotionless. Mom, we're leaving for Europe tomorrow. I already sold your beach house and your car. We needed the money. Bye. And just like that, she hung up. 45 years of raising her, loving her, sacrificing everything for her, and she tossed me aside like I was nothing. But I took a slow breath and smiled, because there was something my dear daughter didn't know. My name is Antonia Brooks. I'm 71 years old, and until that moment, I thought I knew my daughter. I lost my husband, Robert, just 6 months ago. One morning, while we were having breakfast, the same way we had every morning for 45 years, he kissed my forehead, said, "Good morning, my love," and minutes later he was gone. A heart attack. Just like that. After that, Angela visited me 3 times a week. She helped with the funeral, took me grocery shopping, even insisted I see a doctor. I thought it was love. Now I understand it was convenience. The beach house she sold? That was our sacred place. Robert and I bought it when Angela was 15. Every summer, every holiday, every memory lived in those walls. And the old Ford pickup she sold. Robert loved that truck. His scent was still on the seats. But instead of crying, I felt a calmness I hadn't felt in months. Because I suddenly remembered something Robert said 3 days before he died. He handed me a manila envelope and said, "Antonia, put this in your dresser. If anything happens to me, open it only when you're ready." I tucked it away and forgot about it, until today. After my doctor told me I was healthy, I walked to the bus stop. My car, apparently, no longer mine, and I couldn't help but smile. Angela thought she had taken everything from me. But Robert, my Robert, had always been a man who planned ahead. When I got home, I went straight to the drawer. The envelope was still there. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were documents, certificates, and a handwritten letter. "My dear Antonia, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer with you. Forgive me for the secrets, but I wanted to protect you from worry." Robert had invested our savings, in silence. We didn't just have the beach house. We owned 6 other properties, including the apartment building where Angela and her husband lived. We owned shares in 3 companies, bank accounts with amounts I could hardly believe. I wasn't just comfortable. I was rich, very rich, and I had never known. Robert wrote, "If Angela ever finds out, she'll treat us differently. I want her to love us for who we are, not what we have." The irony was almost painful. She thought I had nothing, when in reality I had everything. The next morning, Angela called again. "Mom, we transferred your share of the money from the house and the truck. It's not much, but it'll help you get by for a few months." "My share?" I asked. "Yes, Mom. We gave you 30%. That's fair, right? We need the rest for a business opportunity in Europe." 30% of my own property. How generous. She continued, "We're leaving this afternoon. Don't worry, when we get back, we'll help you find a smaller place. Something that fits your needs." Fits my needs. As if she knew anything about them. "Okay, Angela," I said. "Have a safe trip." "Oh, Mom, I knew you'd understand. We love you." And she hung up. For the first time since Robert died, I laughed. My daughter had robbed me, spoken to me like I was a burden, and thrown me away, all for some ridiculous European adventure she believed would change her life. But what hurt most wasn't the money. It was how easily she erased me. 45 years of motherhood. Gone in a 2-minute phone call. That was the part that hurt the most. I checked my bank account online, and sure enough, they had deposited an amount that might have looked generous to them, but to me, it was a joke. They had sold the beach house for far less than its actual value, clearly desperate for quick cash, and they had sold Robert's truck for practically nothing. That afternoon, I stood by my window and watched as Angela and Edward loaded their suitcases into a cab. Edward carried 2 huge bags, and Angela held an expensive-looking carry-on. They laughed, kissed, chatted, and looked like 2 teenagers taking off on an adventure. Not once did they look toward my window. Not once did they say goodbye. When the cab pulled away, I went into the kitchen, sat down with a cup of tea, and spread Robert's documents across the table. I had decisions to make. I could call a lawyer, reclaim my properties, and undo everything they had done. Legally, I could get every bit of it back. But something inside me whispered that there was a better way, a lesson they needed to learn. So I called Mr. Peterson, the attorney who had handled Robert's affairs. He had been at the funeral, he had offered condolences, and told me to call if I ever needed help. And now I did. "Mrs. Brooks, it's good to hear from you," he said. "I'm doing well, Mr. Peterson. I need to see you urgently. I found some documents from Robert that I don't quite understand." "Of course. Come by tomorrow morning." For the first time in months, I slept soundly that night. I even dreamed of Robert, sitting in his favorite chair, reading the morning paper. When he saw me, he smiled and said, "It's about time, my love. It's about time you stood up for yourself." I woke up with a new feeling. Not happiness, not sadness either. Determination. For the first time since Robert's passing, I knew exactly what I had to do. I dressed carefully the next morning, wearing my wine-colored dress, the one Robert always said made me look elegant. I fixed my hair, put on some makeup, and when I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman I hadn't seen in years. A strong woman. Mr. Peterson's office was in an old, elegant downtown building with marble floors and huge windows. He greeted me warmly, but the moment he saw the documents, his whole expression changed. "Mrs. Brooks, this is far more than I expected. Robert was an incredibly smart man." "I know, Mr. Peterson. I've already looked through them. I just need to know what I can legally do." He explained everything. The documents were valid. Everything Robert left was legally mine. And he confirmed what I already suspected: the sale of the beach house was completely illegal. Angela had no authority to sell it. "We can get the house back immediately, Mrs. Brooks. And we can file fraud charges against your daughter." "No," I said calmly. "I don't want to take legal action against her. Not yet. I want this handled quietly. Can you do that for me?" He studied my face, curious, but nodded. "Of course. What do you need?" "I want the beach house back discreetly. And I want full control over all my properties, especially the building where my daughter lives." "It'll take a few weeks," he said. "But it's absolutely doable." "Good. And one more thing, Mr. Peterson. No one can know I'm behind any of this." He nodded again. When I left his office that day, I felt like I had woken from a long, painful sleep. Life outside continued as normal, people walking, cars passing, conversations everywhere, but for me, everything had changed. I had a plan. Over the next few weeks, my life felt surreal. On the outside, I was still the poor widow abandoned by her daughter. But in secret, I was regaining control of everything that was mine. Mr. Peterson worked quickly, updating me every few days. Meanwhile, I decided to stay in my house, my actual house, though Angela probably expected me to move into some tiny rented room. Every morning, I ate breakfast at the same table Robert and I used for years and then walked around the neighborhood. People greeted me with sympathy, sadness, pity, all that. My neighbor Aurora approached me one day while I was watering my plants. "Antonia, dear, is it true Angela went to Europe and left you all alone?" "Yes, Aurora," I replied. "She went with Edward. They have business plans over there." And how are you going to manage? We all know Robert didn't leave much money. If only you knew, I thought. I'll be fine, Aurora, I said with a smile. Everyone talked to me like that, gently, carefully, and honestly. I kind of enjoyed the facade. It felt like living a double life. Then one morning, Mr. Peterson called. Good news, Mrs. Brooks. We successfully reversed the sale of the beach house. The buyers weren't at fault, so they received their money back. The house is yours again. Excellent. And the apartment building where Angela lives. That's more complicated. Legally, you've always owned it, but we're adjusting the paperwork to put you in full, direct control. 2 more weeks. Perfect. Keep me updated. 3 weeks had passed since Angela had gone to Europe. Not a call. Not a text. Nothing. I had ceased to exist to her the moment she got the money. But that was going to change soon. I visited the beach house one afternoon, taking the same bus route Robert and I used to take. The house looked exactly the same, except for a few potted plants. Memories flooded me. Angela building sandcastles as a child, summer barbecues, teenage drama, bringing her boyfriends, then eventually Edward. All those precious moments, and she'd reduced them to a quick sale. An older gentleman came out of the house and spotted me. Are you all right, ma'am? Yes, just remembering, I said. Such a shame about what happened. They said the elderly owner was very sick and needed to sell fast. Elderly and sick. Another lie from my daughter. We talked for a bit before I left, my heart heavy. It wasn't just betrayal, it was how easily she had made up a story about me. To her, I was just an obstacle. That night, I called Mr. Peterson again. I want the truck back too. That'll be harder, he said. Your daughter had a power of attorney you signed. I froze. What power of attorney? He explained that after Robert died, Angela had brought papers for me to sign, telling me they were for funeral or inheritance arrangements. I had been so lost in grief. I signed without reading. How foolish I had been. Can we fight it? Yes, but it'll take proof of deception. Do it, I said. Weeks passed in a strange rhythm, widow in the morning, businesswoman in the afternoon. I learned more about finance in those weeks than I had in my entire life. And I discovered something important. Edward was drowning in debt. Then Friday arrived. Mrs. Brooks, Mr. Peterson said, everything is finalized. You have total control of every property. And I got Robert's truck back. Wonderful. Now I need one more thing. Send Angela an eviction notice. Silence. Are you sure, Mrs. Brooks? Absolutely. Later that day, Aurora came running over with gossip. Antonia! Edward is in trouble with the bank. They're discovering the loans he took out using the apartment as collateral. They say Angela might have to come back to fix the mess. And just like that, the timing was perfect. That night, I stared at the stars and whispered, "Thank you, Robert." The next morning, Mr. Peterson called. Your daughter just landed. Alone. Rumors say she and Edward had a big fight. I'll deliver the eviction notice today. The letter was delivered an hour later. The next day, the phone rang at 8 a.m. Mom, Angela cried. I need to talk to you. I got a letter, an eviction notice. It must be a mistake. Do you know anything about this? I kept my voice calm. Eviction? From who? From a company called Robert Investments Incorporated. Do you know it? No, honey. Never heard of it. Mom, I don't know what to do. Edward left me. He ran away with another woman. I came back broke. Lost. I have no one. Where are you now? At the apartment. Mom, can I come see you? I need you. Of course, honey. She arrived an hour later, looking exhausted and broken. She apologized, cried, confessed everything. I listened with just enough empathy to be believable. And then she said the line I had been waiting for. Mom, can I stay with you? Of course, honey. This will always be your home. She hugged me, desperate, with a hug full of need, not love. And I hugged her back, strategically. That night, I called Mr. Peterson. I want every detail about Edward's debts. I want to separate them from Angela legally. Yes, Mrs. Brooks. It will take time. That's fine. I'm in no rush. He hesitated. May I ask, what is your final plan? It's simple, I said. I'm going to save my daughter. But first, she needs to learn what hitting rock bottom really feels like. Angela moved into my house the next day. She had only 2 suitcases and a cardboard box left from her previous life. As she unpacked in her childhood room, I watched quietly. Mom, she said softly, holding an envelope, I found this in the apartment. It was with Edward's things. It has your name on it. It was another envelope from Robert. His handwriting. But this one was new, different. And suddenly, everything shifted again. It was tempting to tell her that I had seen the signs all along, that Edward had never seemed trustworthy to me, but saying that would have shattered the image I needed to maintain, the compassionate, fragile mother doing her best. Love can be blinding sometimes, honey, I told her softly. Don't blame yourself. But, Mom, I didn't just ruin my life. I ruined yours too. I treated you horribly. I took your house, your truck, everything you owned, all to give to a man who abandoned me the first chance he got. Now we're just 2 poor women trying to survive because of me. It's in the past, Angela, I whispered. We'll be okay. No, we won't. Not like this. You lost everything Dad left you. I lost my marriage and my future. We're 2 poor women trying to survive. If she only knew. If she only knew that at that very moment, I had more money than she could imagine. That I owned the building she lived in. That I could erase every one of her problems with a single phone call. But it wasn't time yet. The bank visit. The next day, we went to the bank. Angela was nervous. I kept up my act, the confused widow who barely understood finances. The employee led us to the safety deposit room and opened box number 247. Inside were jewels, lots of them. Rings, necklaces, bracelets, earrings. Some pieces I recognized from Robert's family, others were completely new to me. There was also a letter from Robert explaining where each piece came from and its approximate value. Angela gasped. Mom, this must be worth a fortune. You think so? I said, pretending to be unsure. Yes. Look at this emerald, this pearl necklace. Dad saved a treasure. According to Robert's letter, the jewelry was worth around $200,000. A significant amount, but compared to the rest of my assets, it was pocket change, like finding a few forgotten bills in a couch when you already have millions. What do we do with this, Mom? I don't know, honey. They're family memories. Mom, she said carefully, if we sell some pieces, you could get your beach house back, and I could pay off some of Edward's debts. There it was again. Even when she found something valuable, her first instinct was to fix the mess Edward had left behind. Are you sure you want to use your father's inheritance to pay Edward's debts? I asked. What choice do I have? If I don't pay something soon, the banks will foreclose on everything. And technically, I don't own anything. Everything was in Edward's name. Think carefully, honey. Once you sell these jewels, you can't get them back. I know, Mom, but I'm out of options. No one will hire me with all these legal claims against me. The selling of the jewels. We took the jewels home. Angela spread them across the kitchen table, examining them, calculating their value, turning decades of family history into numbers. Mom, I think I can get $180,000 for these. It was less than we expected, but enough for the debts she feared most. Are you sure you want to do this? I have no choice, Mom. If I don't pay something soon, they'll take everything, maybe even this house. The irony! She was terrified of losing a house that I owned, using money from jewels that came from the man who built the fortune that could save her. She explained how she would prioritize the debts with real collateral, the ones that could lead to foreclosure. She had matured more in a few weeks than in the past 40 years. That night, as she organized debt documents, I received a call. The call from Mr. Peterson. Mrs. Brooks, he said, I have a full report on Edward's debts. It's worse than we expected. Over $200,000 owed to banks and private lenders. And some loans were taken using falsified documents, with your daughter's signature. My heart tightened. Angela was legally responsible. If we can prove she didn't know, we might get her out of some of the debts. But it'll be long and expensive. How expensive? For a good lawyer, at least $50,000. I didn't hesitate. Mr. Peterson, prepare everything to get my daughter out of these debts. Don't tell her anything yet. You're going to pay, Mrs. Brooks? I'll do whatever I need to protect my daughter. I hung up and found Angela staring sadly at the jewels. Thinking about your father? I asked. About how disappointed he would be in me, she whispered. I abandoned you for a liar. I sold our family's memories. I ruined everything he built. It was the first time her regret felt truly sincere. The next weeks were hard. Angela sold most of the jewelry, keeping only my engagement ring and her grandmother's necklace. I watched her negotiate, research prices, learn to live with almost nothing. She began applying for jobs, but her financial mess scared employers away. Mom, she said one evening, I got a part-time job cleaning offices at night. It's all I could find. She looked tired, but stronger. Are you sure you can handle that much physical work? I asked. I'll have to learn. I'm not going to be a burden to you anymore. You're already letting me live here for free. This is your home, Angela. No, Mom, it's your home. And I need to earn my place here. Seeing her put on worn-out clothes and leave at night to clean offices broke my heart, but filled me with pride. The turning point. One evening, she came home exhausted. There's a woman at work named Mrs. Johnson, she said. She told me something today. You either end up doing this job because you never had opportunities, or because you ruined the opportunities you did have. And what did you tell her? I told her the truth, that I ruined mine. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were honest. Mom, these weeks have been the hardest of my life, but also the most important. I finally know what matters. Not money. Not luxury. It's having someone who loves you when everything falls apart. I squeezed her hand. Mom, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want to earn it. The reveal. The next morning, Mr. Peterson called. Mrs. Brooks, excellent news. We found proof of fraud. Your daughter can be cleared of all debts. It was time. He arranged a meeting for Friday. Angela dressed in her best clothes, though they were now a little big on her thinner frame. She was terrified of another blow. Mr. Peterson handed her the first folder. These documents show that Edward forged your signature. You're not responsible for his debts. Her hands trembled. But who paid for this? I don't have that kind of money. Mr. Peterson looked at me. My moment had come. Angela, I said gently, your father left me more than you knew. Much more. Mom, what are you talking about?
Mr. Peterson, I said, show her the rest.
He handed her the second folder: deeds, bank statements, investment certificates, the entire hidden fortune Robert had spent a lifetime building. Angela read page after page, her eyes widening. Confusion, disbelief, hurt, shock, and finally, understanding. Mom, this says you're the owner of the building I lived in. Yes. And that you have other properties, bank accounts, investments? Yes. Angela's voice shook. So when I sold the beach house, it was actually your house? That means the sale was fraudulent. I already got it back, I replied calmly. Angela stared at the documents, her eyes darting over every page, trying to process the truth. How long have you known? She whispered. Since the day you called me from the doctor's office. You knew all this when I came back from Europe begging for help? Yes. You saw me crying every night, and you knew you could fix everything? Yes. A long, heavy silence filled the room. Then she slowly closed the folder and looked directly into my eyes. Why, Mom? Why did you let me suffer when you could have helped me? This was the question I had waited weeks to hear. Because, Angela, you needed to learn something you couldn't learn any other way. Learn what? The value of the things you threw away, the value of family, respect, and responsibility. When you abandoned me, it wasn't just money you took. You took dignity. You took trust. Angela began to cry, but these weren't the selfish tears she'd cried before. These were tears of awakening. I abandoned you when you needed me most, she said. Yes. I treated you like garbage. Yes. And you still saved me? Yes. But not in the way you expected. I didn't save you by handing you money so you could make the same mistakes again. I saved you by letting you hit rock bottom, so you could learn to save yourself. Mr. Peterson, the lawyer, cleared his throat gently. Miss Brooks, your mother paid all legal fees to free you from Edward's debts. She also recovered every property that was sold fraudulently. You're completely clear of legal issues. Angela wiped her tears. And the cleaning job? You can quit if you want, I said. But I hope you don't. Why? Because that job is teaching you what you never learned when life was easy: dignity, effort, and the value of every dollar. Angela looked at me differently this time, not as a child needing rescue, but as a woman seeing another woman with respect. Do you forgive me, Mom? I forgave you a long time ago, sweetheart. The real question is, can you forgive yourself? I don't know. I did terrible things. We all make mistakes. What matters is what we do after we recognize them. Mr. Peterson left us alone. For a while, we sat quietly, letting everything settle. Then Angela whispered, Mom, even if you didn't have all this money, even if you really were the poor widow I thought you were, I would have learned the same lesson. What lesson? That nothing is more valuable than having someone who loves you unconditionally. These past weeks, the only thing that kept me going was knowing I still had a home with you. That no matter how much I ruined my life, you were still my mother. That will never change, I said softly. I know. But now I know something else too. I can't ever take that love for granted again. I have to earn it, with respect, gratitude, and actions. We walked out of Mr. Peterson's office with a completely different relationship. Not mother and daughter bound by habit, but two women rebuilding something real. In the weeks that followed, the rebuilding continued, but not in the way Angela expected. Even after discovering the wealth she had access to, she kept her night cleaning job. Mom, I need to finish what I started, she told me. I can't just go back to comfort like nothing happened. Are you sure? You don't need to punish yourself. It's not punishment. It's remembering who I was, and who I want to become. One afternoon, Aurora, my closest friend for 40 years, came by. Antonia, there are rumors, she said. People are saying you're not as poor as they thought. They're saying Angela paid off all her debts, and that you somehow bought back the beach house. That costs a lot of money. I sighed. Aurora knew me too well. What do you want to know? I want to know if my best friend has been lying to me. I sat opposite her. It was time to tell someone the truth. Robert left me more than anyone knew. How much more? Enough that Angela and I never have to worry again. Aurora blinked, stunned. Then why pretend to be poor? Because Angela had to learn a lesson she couldn't learn any other way. I told her everything. The cruel phone call, my silent plan, the weeks of watching Angela struggle, and the final reveal. Aurora shook her head. Antonia, that's both brilliant and terrible. I know. But I understand why you did it. That night, Angela came home from work. Mom, she said, something funny happened today. Someone asked if I was the daughter of the rich lady from the north side. What did you say? I said yes. And then she asked why I was still working. So I told her, because I need to prove to myself that I can stand on my own 2 feet. What did she say? She laughed and said, Honey, that's the difference between being rich and acting rich. Your mom taught you how to be truly rich. Angela sat beside me. Mom, I've made a decision. I'm staying here with you, but not as a daughter running home. I'm staying as a grown woman choosing to share her life with her mother. What's the difference? The difference is, I will pay my share of expenses. I will contribute. I want this to be a partnership. You don't need to. Yes, I do. I need our relationship to be different than before. And your job. I'll keep working, but one day, I'll do more. I want to go back to school. What do you want to study? Social work. I want to help women going through what I went through. My heart swelled. She had finally found her purpose. Months passed. Angela finished her studies. I used some of my resources to start a foundation for women escaping domestic violence and financial abandonment. Angela applied for a master's program and got accepted. I'm paying for it myself, she said firmly. It's who I am now. One evening, she handed me a letter. It's from Edward, she said. From prison. He wants forgiveness. And how do you feel? I feel nothing. That version of me doesn't exist anymore. Later, alone on the porch, Angela told me, Mom, do you know what this whole experience taught me? What? That true love isn't what tells you what you want to hear. It's what teaches you what you need to learn, even when it hurts. She was right. A few days later, we returned to the beach house, the place she once sold without a second thought. Mom, she said quietly, I need to apologize. Not just for selling the house, but for reducing years of family memories to a quick sale. It's forgiven, I said. She walked through each room in silence, tears streaming down her face. I can feel Dad here, she whispered. He's always been here. As the sun set, Angela turned to me. Mom, I have an idea. Let's turn this house into a shelter for women starting over. It was perfect. Robert would have loved it. We'll do it, I said. That night, I whispered into the quiet air. We did it, Robert. Our daughter finally understands what really matters. And for the first time since he died, I felt him answer. You both were stronger than you ever knew. Justice had come, not as revenge, but as growth. Not as punishment, but as transformation. And in the end, Angela and I gained something far more valuable than money. We gained a real relationship. one that nothing could destroy. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, you can support me by sending a super thanks. It truly helps me keep bringing you more life stories like this. On your screen, you'll find 2 new stories I highly recommend. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story, with love and respect.